the introduction side. Hello, everyone. My name is Yining. I'm the curator of Between the Mountains, Hills and Lakes exhibition that initiated by Prehivisia Shanghai office. The exhibition was launched since August at Design Society and currently open to the public and modern art base. And thanks to Swissphotographers China, who co-hosted our Shanghai's exhibition. And in this case, we have arranged a series of forums and lectures on the theme of technology, photography, and future images, which invited researchers, writers, curators, artists to talk about their ideas, writings, and art practices on the related issues. So today, the Artistic Talk Series 1 invited Catherine to share her understanding of photography in the age of digital revolution. She's a visual artist based in Switzerland. She's got the Bachelor of Arts and Master degree in Visual Communication and Photography with the first class honors at the University of Arts and Design and École. She describes herself as a photographic archaeologist with a fascination for technology shifts. She's work has been featured in numerous solo and group exhibitions on the international scene. Besides this, she's a recipient of several major fellowships. So I first met Catherine in Braga, Portugal, back in 2007, by the time she was planning to visit China for her previous project called New Artificiality. So she visited factories in China who was making the 3D model buildings, and then she made a brilliant project related to the issue. And the one we are showing at the exhibition was titled The Beauty of Science, which is a work that she made over her commission by the Swiss Institute of Technology, Lausanne, like about 2 and 3 years ago. So she delivers many detailed portraits of science, blurring the lines between the images she creates and those that she discovered and makes her own. Between the Mountains, Hills and Lakes show slideshows and a 3D nano sculpture by Catherine in the exhibition space. And I think that gives us an imagination of how photography can either represent science or also can really involve in the making of a new kind of art. So in today's lecture, I think Catherine will share her reflection and her critical thinking of photography and give us some of her critical thinking on the issue. So next, let's welcome Catherine to give us her lecture about the topic.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Ni hao. Thank you, Swissphotographers China and Yining He for organizing this webinar. I'm very glad to share with you my vision. Oh, I will turn off my phone to share with you my experience on photography on this medium that has been changing a lot during the past 3 decades. I would like to share with you some of my earlier projects on photography. Let me start the screen share.
And give me a second. Xingyi, would you like to translate a little bit, like easily to conclude, and then we're going to the real procession.
Okay, no problem. 首先我的名字叫凯瑟琳·洛伊滕艾格，我是一名瑞士的视觉艺术家。首先非常感谢瑞士科技文化中心，感谢瑞士文化基金会举办了这次活动，也非常感谢策展人何一宁女士，我非常荣幸能够来参加这次的分享会。接下来呢，我将会分享我作为一名视觉艺术家在过去的对于摄影在过去30年发展的一个看法。首先呢，我会给大家分享我的早期作品。
Maybe first, I would start with a little bit of my background. So as Yining he said before, I studied photography at ECAL. And at that time, obviously in 2001, early 2000s, the only camera we had at school were analog cameras. And slowly but surely, the digital cameras were arriving on the market. And already at that time, I was a bit questioning myself, how do I choose either I want to work with an analog camera or a digital camera? So already at the beginning of my studies, I was a bit confronted to the technology of photography.
我在2000年的时候就读于洛桑的艺术与设计大学。在当时呢是胶片摄影的时代，但是就是数码相机也刚刚产生，所以那个时候就在胶片相机和数码相机之间，需要在这之间做出一个选择。
So when I was studying photography in this school, as I knew that we were living this digital revolution somehow, slowly but surely, I was willing to investigate how the photography business was living this change. So I decided to visit different companies, laboratories, dealing with analog photography, but also photographers.
在当时呢，我就非常关注摄影师的生存的状态，所以我选择去拍摄了一些摄影师的工作室。
So what we see here is one of my first series named Hors champ. It means out of frame, and it shows different photo studios near my town, near Lausanne. Different photographers working in different fields of photography, such as food photographers or watches photographers or people photographers.
在当时这个系列呢叫做镜框之外，我当时去拍摄了一些不同的摄影师的工作室，他们其中有一些商业摄影师，还有一些是实物摄影师，也有一些肖像摄影师。
And here I was focusing mainly on the tools actually used by the photographers. I was wondering if the upcoming digital revolution was changing in some ways their way of photographing objects or photographing people. I was wondering if it has already a direct impact on them. So my idea was really to focus only on the spaces, on the tools, on the instruments, and skip the presence of the person into these rooms, into these places.
当时呢，正是数字革命诞生的时期，所以我当时就是非常关注他们的拍摄的方式，想知道数字革命对他们的摄影产生了哪些直接的影响，所以我这个系列主要是聚焦于拍摄他们的工作的空间和他们使用的工具，而并没有把摄影师本人放置在这个空间当中。
And a big change for some photographers was the space. Actually, before with analog photography, you would need a lot of space to have different sets for watches photography, for instance. They had to work on 2 different sets because on one set they were waiting for the results from the laboratory. They needed to wait until the film was developed, and and now with deep photography, you can, back in that time already with digital photography, they could directly be in touch with the client and decide if the picture was good or not, and they didn't need a lot of space for their workflow. But before, early on, as they were using analog photography, they always had this gap between the moment they take the picture and the moment they see the result from the laboratories.
在胶片摄影时代呢，摄影师通常都需要很大的空间，因为他们需要一个暗房来去冲洗他的照片，并且等待这个冲洗出来的结果。在数码时代，他们能够跟客户进行直接的交流，并且能够直接看到拍摄成果的好还是坏，所以他们不需要更多的空间。整个工作流程呢，就是也会更加顺畅一些。
So I visited different photographers, as I said, and most of them was a bit anxious about this change in photography with the digital. They were a bit anxious because they were a bit in between. The quality of digital cameras were not as good as what we had with analog camera back in that time. And they were a bit worried about how will be the future for them. And I had the same questions in a way about myself, how I would project myself as a photographer after my school, how would I deal with this new technology coming up. Would it affect the way we take pictures? Would it affect the work itself for the photographers? Because with digital, one may think that everything is easier and that everything can be done without a professional in the field.
在当时我拍摄的这些摄影师，他们都有一个共同的焦虑，就是他们认为，数字设备生产出来的影像作品是不如胶片相机拍摄的作品的。我当时也有同样的担心，并且呢，也担心自己作为一个摄影师在未来的发展，就是作为一个摄影师如何来处理这项新的技术。尤其是对于很多人来说，数码照片的拍摄是更加容易的，也是更不专业的。
And of course, as a student, I was also willing to discover how the professional photographers worked, because what we see in advertisement, it's the final picture, and I was really interested also to show the behind scenes of how a picture is constructed throughout the props, the accessories, throughout the lights, and so on. And with the digital revolution, I would say that it has changed a little bit. I mean, the light, the background, etc., etc. Now with digital, we can easily change, for instance, the background of one picture. But on the other side, I mean, what hasn't changed is really the idea of the photographer, the way he looks at one topic, and really the aesthetic that he wants to put in the picture.
同时呢，我当时也拍摄了很多摄影师的拍摄的幕后花絮，比如说现场光线的布置。当数字革命产生的时候，这些背景和光线其实是更容易改变的，但是不变的是摄影师的想法以及他们对某一话题的看法。
In some of my picture, you see it's very interesting to see how the photographer is working in a way, and how finally photography is not only one camera, one topic. It's also all the equipment for the lighting, all the props that makes the picture in the end.
这张照片我们可以看到当时的胶片摄影师的工作的方式啊，就是不再是我们现在的一人一机的形式，而是还有很多其他的设备。
So while doing this project, I really meet up, as I said, different types of photographers. Some of them were really in a bad state in the sense that they were maybe living from portrait photography, from ID photography, and here, of course, the digital revolution had a real impact, and some of them had to close their store and reduce their space. Here, for instance, in this picture, you see a photographer that had to close down his shop and work in his basement.
这张照片就是显示了一个肖像摄影师，他在受到这种数字革命的冲击之后，不得不去缩减自己的工作空间，所以当时他把他的工作室就搬到了地下室。
And on the other hand of this project, what was really changing, and I mean, it was very obvious, was the laboratories part. I visited also different laboratories near Lausanne, some small laboratories where we could develop, where people could go and develop their films, or printers, some local printers. And there I could really analyze that there were a bit a fear about the future of the company, because digital was taking away all their activity in a way at some point.
我当时还造访了几个洛桑附近的摄影师的工作室，刚才的照片展示的就是他们冲洗和打印照片的设备，他们同时也非常担心，自己的未来在数字革命的冲击之下。
I visited the company Ilford, based in Mali, in Bourg, and I also visited the company Kodak, which was, I mean, it's more like the antenna Kodak for Switzerland, and in this second part of this project, I was facing many restrictions. I mean, there were the Kodak. The PR manager was not really willing to have a photographer showing the interiors of the company, as they were already like reducing the number of employees and emptying the spaces inside. So I only had the opportunity to photograph the building from outside.
我当时还拍摄了在瑞士的伊尔福的工厂和柯达的工厂。伊尔福是世界上最大的这个相纸的生产商。当时我只被允许拍摄他们公司的外部的空间，而不允许拍摄内部空间，因为他们正在进行裁员，并且也在清空一部分的空间。
And throughout this first project named Hors-Champ, Out of Frame, I had the opportunity to go to New York City in a residency program, and I decided to continue this project on photographer studios and visit different locations there. It could be photographer spaces owned by the photographers, by the artist, or photographer spaces on rental.
当时呢，我有机会去到纽约去参加一个当地的艺术家的驻留项目，然后我也借此机会到访了一些纽约的摄影师的工作室。
This was 2007. This residency program, and it was really matching with the with the coming out of the first iPhone at that time. I remember it very well. And I mean, with this revolution also with the smartphone, I thought that this would really like put the amateur photography in a new step. I mean, if one can take picture with a phone, why would this person use would go on to use a standard camera when everything lies in just one device?
这几张照片呢是在大概07年左右拍摄的，当时也正赶上第一部 iPhone 的发布，智能手机的产生呢，也使得更多的人成为了摄影爱好者。
So during this residency program, I different photo shooting. One here with Beyoncé. She was shot by a Swiss photographer named Henri Leutenegger. And I went on with this investigation. I started here in Switzerland by using only analog camera and taking picture of shooting backstage.
当时我到访了一个摄影师的工作室，他正在拍摄 Beyoncé，然后我当时拍摄了这张幕后的照片。
I really think that the Archamp project, this first project, was really like, I felt it was an emergency to do that because we were really living between 2001 and 2007 when the first iPhone came out. We were really living a moment very special in time for photography. And I thought that one needed to make to make a testimony out of it, and that I had like really little time to make this this investigation.
当时呢，我感觉非常的紧迫，去记录这一段特殊的时期，是在大概2001年到2007年这样一个智能手机被开发和发布出来的时期。
So during this investigation, I continued in New York. I was also willing to visit photographers using not very usual cameras, such as here you see one of the largest Polaroid camera existing in the world. I think there are only 7 of them, and here we are at the studio of oh, I forgot the name. Oh, it's okay. It's a photographer based in New York as well that is working for other photographers here. She was doing an installation for David Levinthal, who is famous for his series about small figurines that are shot with these very large Polaroid cameras.
前面那张照片是我当时去拜访的一个使用了一个世界上最大的宝丽来相机的艺术家。这台宝丽来相机呢，可能只有7个。当时他正在为另外一个艺术家，一个装置艺术家拍摄他的作品。
The name came back. It's Jennifer Trausch, the photographer that is owning this large Polaroid camera. And here you see in the studio, it's still in Jennifer Trausch studio. You see the final result, the final Polaroid picture taken from these figurines. And this was also very interesting for me because in Switzerland, I never had the chance to see such an equipment, such camera, like this huge format Polaroid cameras.
我们这里可以看到他的拍摄的成果，就是他在自己的工作室里面建立一个微缩的模型。他用这个大型的宝丽来相机去拍摄了这个模型。当时对我来说也是一个非常新奇的一个拍摄。
And besides, I visited other photographer studios starting to use also digital equipment. Here it's Lois Greenfield that is known for taking picture of dancers in the air. And here you can tell that the computer looks like from another era. I mean, the evolution for computer tools was very fast, and nowadays when we see such computer, it feels like they are from the other century.
这是一个擅长拍摄舞者的摄影师的工作室。从这个左下角的这个电脑，我们就可以看出来当时的这个使用的电脑的版本还是非常陈旧的。
When I was in New York City, I also wanted to go on with the other side of this project, more focused on laboratories. And as Kodak headquarters were located not far from New York City, I decided to visit the company there. In two period of time. First time was 2007 and second time was 2012, right after they announced their official bankruptcy.
当时在纽约的时候，我还想去参观在罗切斯特的这个柯达的公司。我总共到访过2次，一次是在2007年，还有一次是在2012年。2012年是刚刚在他宣布破产之后。
And of course, for me, it was also visiting, like viewing another facet of the United States. I was living a boiling city like New York City for a city that is quite big, but that is more like the typical company town, with a lot of industrial facilities and some residential areas around.
跟纽约的繁华不一样的是，这边我们可以看到很多的工业的设施，还有一些还有大量的这种民居。
While I was visiting Rochester, I was not only focusing on the industry itself, because I had also a lot of restriction photographing the interiors of Kodak. So I had to investigate also the indirect impact on the city itself by taking picture of the residential areas of the city center, and also like the highlights of the city, some historical monuments there connected to Kodak.
我当时有很多限制，就是我不能自由的去拍摄柯达公司的内部，但是我又非常想要去拍摄公司的倒闭对于当地、对于城市的影响，间接的影响，所以我拍摄了很多居民区，还有一些跟柯达公司相关的历史建筑。
And during this visit in Rochester, I was quite struck by the size of the company there. I mean, it's not only one site; it's different sites in a huge area, and the industrial park was already like changing. They torn down some facilities because they were not used anymore. So this digital revolution was really visible there, and I was willing to understand how Kodak reacted to this new chapter in the history of photography.
我当时在现场的时候被整个公司的这个规模，震惊到了。它有不同的办公空间在整个城市当中分布，但是当时因为破产，他们拆除了一些原有的工业设施。
And to have this feedback from the people there, I had the opportunity to visit different. I mean, to meet different people there. Could be Kodak employees, could be also like Rochester inhabitants, and throughout these different feedbacks on the situation, I build up my story about this city that is actually not really known for the people using Kodak film. There, I realized that few people know the company in Rochester. I mean, they don't know that it's in Rochester, and they don't really know about the story behind this big name that everybody knows, Kodak.
我当时采访了不同的人，也比如说柯达公司的员工和当地的居民，也收到了他们的反馈。我利用这些反馈，创造了一个自己的叙事。我希望能够通过这个系列的作品，向那些使用过柯达产品但对这个公司、对这个品牌一无所知的人，去增进他们对柯达的了解。
So during these interviews and during these visits in the Kodak buildings, I mean, I was struck also by the way that time has kind of frozen there. It felt like it felt like very empty for such big spaces. Not only the interiors, but also the exteriors with the parking lots. And throughout my project, I try a bit to translate this impression that something has gone. The glorious days of analog photography had gone, and that now we are turning a new page in the history of photography.
当时在公司内部的时候，我感受到了一种时间凝固的氛围。这种空旷感不仅是存在于建筑的内部，也存在于外部，它空旷的停车场里面。我希望能够通过这些作品来展现我对柯达公司的印象。就是这种繁荣的时光一去不复返，但是新的时代的篇章又翻开的这种感觉。
So as I said, few people know about the history behind Kodak, the man behind this big brand, and this project about Kodak named Kodak City after the city of Rochester that is named like this. I was also willing to give an historic input on this project. So I visited also, of course, the George Eastman house. George Eastman is the founder of the company. He founded the company in 1888, and his house is a museum. You can visit the house as if George Eastman was still alive, and there is another part of the house dedicated to photo exhibitions.
当时我还去到了柯达公司的创始人乔治·伊施曼的住宅。他的住宅不仅是他的私人住宅，同时也是一个摄影的博物馆。他们定期会举办一些摄影的展览。
This is a portrait of George Eastman made with come from the collection of the George Eastman House, because the George Eastman House is one of the oldest institutions collecting and presenting photography in the world.
这张肖像是乔治·伊施曼的肖像，然后组成这张肖像的图片呢是他的个人收藏。
And throughout this investigation, I realized I didn't know neither that Kodak was actually the first company to invent digital photography. They had this prestigious scientist named Steve Sassoon, who developed the first digital camera that he's holding in his hand. But of course, when he invented this camera in the late 70s, early 80s, it was too early to develop that for the market, for the amateur market. So they kept this ID somewhere, I guess, very protected, very confidential, and at some point they didn't realize how fast would the turn from analog to digital go, and they went too big as an analog photography company to make the move to a digital company.
这张照片展示的是柯达公司，其实他们是发明了第一台数码相机，发明的这个人叫做Steve Sasson，是在70和80年代晚期的时候，但是当时当他们创造这台相机的时候，他们并不知道该怎么样去推广这台数码相机，所以这个项目就最终的流产了。
Right after this Kodak City project, I was willing to work on a technology that is not new, but that is booming. It's about 3D printing. So now I'm starting the presentation on this ongoing project named New Artificiality. And first, as I did for the Hors-Champ series about the photography studios, I started to make my investigation by going to some local businesses around my town.
后来呢，我接触到了3D 打印技术，所以我目前呢正在进行的这个项目呢就叫做新人造物。
So I visited different companies doing different type of objects, and I focused mostly on objects that failed during the process, because somehow I was wondering how precise is the technology. I was more interested in exploring the potential and the limits of the technology in different fields of applications.
我当时对于这种技术的精确性非常感兴趣，所以我尝试着去探索这种技术的边界和潜在的可能。
And at this stage, I was I studied this project in 2014. I was mainly using only digital photography, and I reproduced these objects in my studio, and I was willing a bit in my picture to avoid any context, so that you don't really know what you're looking at. The object is like floating in a white space, as if could be sometimes like a digital 3D. I mean, a 3D model on a computer.
这个项目开始于2014年，是用数码相机拍摄完成的，在我的工作室。我在制作完这些3D 物品之后呢，就是并没有把它放置在它原有应该出现的语境里面，而是把它放置在了纯白色的背景里。
And after investigating businesses around my town, I was also willing to discover what is the biggest thing we can do with this technology, with this 3D printing technology, and that's how I visited China. I visited Suzhou, more exactly, where the company Winson is based, and here I was interesting to see in real how these 3D printed buildings were looking like.
当时我在思考，我3D 打印技术还有其他的是否还有其他的可能性，所以我来到了中国的苏州，到访了当地的一个擅长这项技术的公司，去看他们是如何利用这项技术来进行建筑的3D 打印。
Throughout my first research about this company while I was in Switzerland, I've only seen pictures online, some videos, and I was a bit struck by the aesthetic of these buildings because it was like amateur pictures, but at some point the way they look with the lines that you see here, for instance, it really had like a virtual aspect that I wanted to emphasize during my photo shooting there.
在来到中国之前呢，我在网上看到了他们公司的一些视频，我被他们的建筑的美学所吸引。
This is one of the biggest building ever 3D printed in the world, and here I was also like struck by the design. It seemed that they were like imitating some known architectural design, and at the same time it was, I don't know, not looking really real or not really safe. So it was interesting a little bit to investigate that. And throughout the way I was taking the picture, getting this feeling that what we are looking at is not really real. It's like maybe some kind of decoration for a movie that doesn't look really solid and very real.
这张图片呢，拍摄的是当时最大的3D 打印的建筑，我们可以看到它模拟了一些经典的这种建筑的外观，但是它给人一种并不真实的感觉。
Of course, the 3D printing technology would help to create more, let's say, organic shape for architecture. That's a bit the idea behind that. I mean, not only to create organical shapes for architecture, but also probably to build housing for a smaller price with less workers in the end.
3D 打印技术不仅能够为建筑提供类似于这种更天然的形状，同时也可以降低建筑的生产的成本。
And then for the Beauty of Science project I did for EPFL, we were 3 different photographers invited to take pictures of the campus of the Institute of Technology here in Lausanne. And my main focus was science. The director of the Musée de l'Élysée here in Lausanne wanted me to take the picture because she knew that I was really interested into these new technologies, not only the shift from analog to digital photography, but also this new technology, I mean, these new possibilities we have, for instance, through digital printing.
当时我作为摄影师受邀参加了瑞士洛桑理工学院的一个项目。 当时的这个项目的负责人知道我对这种新技术非常感兴趣，所以他邀请我，来拍摄一个跟科学相关的摄影项目。
And here, for this project, I had the chance to have free access to all the laboratories, and it was a carte blanche. So I had really like the freedom to do whatever I wanted. And as a photographer, I mean, this is a great opportunity to not to have to deal with the access and so on. So here I wanted to go a bit out of my comfort zone and try new things, not only use standard cameras, but start to use scientific tools that are used to visualize science.
当时呢，我获得了可以自由出入学校实验室的权利，这对摄影师来说是一个很好的机会。当时我就不仅利用自己的传统的相机，还应用了一些其他的新的视觉图像的捕捉工具。
In this picture, you see the blood cells of the former president, of the EPFL. I mean, I could have chosen any sample they had there, but I thought it was also interesting in my practice in the process, not only to use what they had, but maybe to ask someone there, a scientist, to prepare a specific sample for a specific picture for the project. So here, I was only by myself. I was working with other people there, and I thought it was a great experience as a photographer, not only to be the only author of the final picture, but to be co-authoring the final result of one picture.
这张图片是我拍摄的洛桑联邦理工学院前院长的血液样本。这张照片的拍摄呢，是我跟其他人一起合作完成的。这个经验对我来说是非常宝贵的，因为我可以不仅是作为自己影像的主导，我也可以和其他人一起合作完成一个项目。
And science to me goes from the nanoscopic to the invisible, to the eyes, to the macroscopic, to the really, really big. So when I did this investigation of the laboratories in this institute, I was also realizing that my standard cameras, my tools as a conventional photographer were not enough to visualize all this panel of what includes science.
当时在进行这项跟实验室相关的研究的时候，我意识到我自己的相机就是标准的数码相机，对于记录科学是不够的。
And through that project, I really decided to combine pictures taken with my own cameras with pictures that are generated by computers or that are made with microscopes. And the final idea was to have a sequence where you don't know really what you're looking at. Of course, the picture then in the book, they are with an index, so you can always read what the picture is about, but it's not next to the picture. So the viewer is really invited to go through my picture without really knowing the scale behind each one of these pictures.
所以我当时不仅使用了自己的相机，还通过电脑生成了一些图像，并且也利用到了显微镜，拍摄到了一些影像。但是观者通过这些抽象的图像，可能并不能完全的确定实际拍摄的内容是什么。
So through this project, I really like made a new step in my practice by realizing that as a photographer, I was not really a photography maker. I can be just an image maker. So I'm not. I can use different tools. I don't have to stick with the conventional photography tools. And this new status in my practice led me to this idea of exploring new mediums and combining them in the end.
在这个项目结束的时候，我意识到其实自己并不仅仅只是一个影像的制造者，同时还可以利用不同的工具，来创造影像，突破传统的摄影拍摄的手法。所以这个项目对我来说是一个全新的起点，是我探索不同媒介的影像制造的新的起点。
While having had access to these laboratories, I visited a lab that is doing microscopic tools with a nanoscribe. It's like a very performant 3D printer to make very, very tiny objects. And I had this idea of making myself my own silhouette in a very, very small scale. So I was first scanned in this like scanner, and then with the 3D model, we were able to have myself 3D printed with this nanoscribe.
之后我跟Nano 这个公司合作，Nano 是一个3D 打印技术的公司，创作了一个自己的一个微型的雕像，它大概只有300微米那么大。然后前面那张照片呢，它是一个在制作雕像之前，我需要对我自己的全身进行扫描。
And here again, I was a bit trying to see where the boundaries with the 3D printer. And after having been in China to see this monumental realization, I was also like willing to see what till which limit we can go in printing very, very small things.
图像当中可以看到这个雕像非常非常小，我当时就是希望能够，通过制作这样的一个自己的塑像去探索，科学它的极限，它的边界在哪里，它能够创造出多么精细的作品。
So in these different series I've been showing to you, you can really see like the different steps I made throughout my practice by using at the beginning when as a young student analog photography, because it was the only thing we had, and slowly after starting to use digital photography, and then even later on using scientific tools to make pictures and even to make objects.
所以刚才我带大家回顾了一下我的整个创作的历程，从学生时期使用胶片摄影拍摄的作品，一直到数码时代使用数码相机拍摄的作品，到最近我使用其他的技术手段来创造出来的这种技术图像。
And this evolution is also visible in the way I'm showing my work. I mean, from the early beginning, where present my work on mounted on aluminum or on plexiglass, such as what you see here, some installation views from my work hors champ. Now the is also changing a lot through the new technologies I'm using.
从这些图片也可以看出，我在展示作品的方式上面也有一些转变。早期我会使用纸质的装裱的作品在展览当中进行展示，后期的话还有一些其他的展示的方式，可能会使用一些影像装置等等。
So now I would say that the final presentation of my work is has the same importance than, or maybe has more importance than the way I'm taking this picture. And the installation part is completely part of the process now, such as here, as you see the work I did in China with the buildings. I try to implement this work when I'm showing it. I try to implement it in the space so that we have the illusion that my pictures are part of the space.
作品的展示对我来说也非常的重要。这里就可以看到，这是我在中国的展览。当时我希望能够把自己的作品，能够让自己的作品融入到整个环境当中。
And now, of course, I'm also like trying new ways to show my work, not only like a physical picture printed on conventional paper, fine art paper. I try also now to imagine to use screens, because also the technology of screens has changed a lot. I mean, there are now we have more details, and it's also interesting now to play with these new ways of showing photography.
这个视频就可以看到，我其实已经不满足于仅仅只是利用纸质的照片来展示我的作品了。我还最近我还使用到了屏幕这样的一个形式。
So now I try also to use virtual reality by using augmented reality in the picture, so that you can face one picture with an iPad, and then you have you can move with the iPad, and the frame is not only the frame you have in front of you, but you can move around and see the extension of the picture. It's also like a new way to immerse the viewer into the picture, and this gives also a new experience for the visitors in a photo show.
这张图片展示的是我利用了虚拟现实和增强现实的技术。观众可以通过这个 iPad， 它可以通过移动 iPad 上的图像去查看大屏幕上图像的其他的细节。我希望通过这样的形式能够创造一种沉浸式的体验。
And I will finish my presentation by showing you this. I'm sure you have heard about this company, Big Pixel. It's a startup based in Shanghai, and in 2015 they realized I think the the picture with the biggest resolution ever made, and you can really like navigate in the picture and see many details. I mean, it's almost endless. You zoom in and you start to see the people working, taking picture themselves along the river. It's kind of it's a bit frightening, and at the same time it's really like very exciting. In the same picture here you can see so many details.
最后呢，我想
Oh yeah, go on.
最后我想给大家展示一下，就是这个网站，就是它是上海的一个初创公司，他们开发了一项技术，就是可以使用非常高像素的影像，观众呢可以通过无限的放大这个图像去查找很多的细节。
So I think that through this big picture, we can really think, okay, technologies has really like changed the way we are looking at the world, and actually the technological tools are seeing better than our own eyes. It's as I said, it's very exciting, but at the same time, it's very frightening. And I will try to go on with this question of technology that will also like bring new and try to develop projects that are not only using photography-based instruments, but also like other instruments that permits to generate visuals.
所以通过今天的分享呢，大家可以看到，技术改变了我们观看世界的方式，同时呢，也延伸了我们的视角。所以，影像的制造呢，不仅仅是可以通过传统的技术手段，也可以应用一些其他的新的技术。
Now I'm very interested in maybe evolving to a new project that is connected to really the dematerialization of the image, such as things that can be that can use holograms. In a way, I'm really willing to see how far we can go in this dematerialization of photography in the artistic process.
我对摄影的物质性在艺术创造当中的发展也非常的感兴趣。
We can go maybe we can move to the question parts from the audience or from Yining. I don't know if you wanted to first start a conversation with a question you may have.
So I will start, but not asking questions, just
Okay.
some feedback to the lecture. And thank you so much for sharing your experience and your work from early 2000s until today. I mean, it was a really great talk that you taking different projects as a thread, like, so I can know how you think about photography and how you think about the impact of digital age or on the way like photography is produced, and how it changed the way how like artists think about photography and on those whose lives are intertwined with it. So it's a really rewarding lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think people don't, like the thing people don't know is you are teacher in Vevey photography school.
Yeah.
And so last year, yeah, I like you showed me there's a lot of dark room, still have a lot of dark room and techno like analog facilities in the university, but also you have all these digital platforms. And now I have some friends who just arrived in Ecole, and they were so petrified because they've seen they have this program in coding. They have to learn how to write a program through the digital platform. I think the photography world has changed so fast in last 20 years. Like people are trying to positioning themselves in this special and like the world of technology. So I will quickly translate my words into Chinese. 是这样，就是我刚刚我一开始的时候忘了翻译自己的这个介绍，然后我想说的是，我可能今天不是在这里提出一个问题，而是说我来对他刚刚给我们带来的这个讲座做一个回应。我觉得凯瑟琳从她2000年进入到这个摄影行业，作为一个学生开始观察到摄影对整个的无论是对科技，然后对于生态，对于实践者，以及对于说比如说柯达之城的在跟摄影息息相关的这些人的生活都是他所观察的对象。那么他也在创作的过程中不断的推动，或者说是不断在尝试如何去打破摄影跟科技之间的这种关系以及边界。那去年我跟随着凯特琳一起去到了沃韦，就是他所任教的这个学校。然后我们看到它其实这个学院里面保留了非常完整的暗房设备，那同时它又有非常先进的这个数字设备，就是学生可以自由的在其中选择他们愿意去尝试的这个方向。那么当然我刚刚还提到了一点，就是现在的新学生就是就是我身边有朋友去到了这个洛桑美院的学生也会觉得非常的焦虑，因为学摄影的学生不仅仅要拍照片，要去研究图像，他们甚至要去写编程，要去做代码。所以这个对我来说，这20年其实是摄影在遭遇这个科技时代最大的一个变化期间。我觉得就是无论是实践者还是我们身处其中的人，都可以有更多的思考。那我不知道大家有没有问题，如果有问题的话是可以在Okay, I've got a question. There's a question asking you how you understanding the materiality of photography. It's quite big.
How I understand the materiality of photography? Well, that's a big question, because I mean, can we say that a picture is something material when we see it on the screen? I would say rather no. So the material for me is really like the picture we hold in the hand, or the one we mount, or the one that is like a wallpaper on a that is used as a wallpaper. The materiality is paper for me for a photography. But yeah, through 3D printing, what is paradoxal is that to get a 3D model of something, you can really scan an object, and when you scan the object, you get 2D pictures, and then with these 2D pictures, you use a program that will process all of them and build a volume. So it's interesting to see how photography, like 2D picture, can be the material of an object in the end. So the materiality is not very clear in 3D printing, but let's say that maybe some 3D modelization of objects come from photography at the beginning, from 2D. So the border is really here, I think, hard to define. But in my case, I'm really willing to explore more the materialization of photography by using maybe new forms of installation. As I said before, maybe holograms. This is a new topic I would like to work on in the next years.
我来简单的解答一下，凯特琳的意思是说，对于他来说，物质性就是在传统的意义上，物质性就是那个纸，就是纸张摄影打到纸上的这种状态。但是当我们看屏幕的时候，它其实就是一个数据的写作。那么，在这个意义上，其实摄影的物质性是非常模糊的。但是呢，他也在思考，尤其是通过这个3D 打印的技术，他在思考说这两者之间的转化是怎么样的。就是我们如果去做一个3D 打印的话，它是一个首先它是要 scan， 就是它是要去把它整个扫描下来，然后再转化成一个2维的东西，或者说把一个2维的，就是它目前是这样，就是在我的展览中也好，这个3D 的它做出来的这个装置，其实到最后是被打印成一个展览的照片，那它就变成了一个物质性的东西。就是他未来想去做的，以及包括现在想去做的，就是怎么样把一个图像再转化成一个装置，就这是他未来的一个探索。所以他觉得这两个的边界是就是相当模糊，但是又可以去讨论的。I have another question coming from the audience, which is it necessary for an artist to explore the technical aspects of photography? It is necessary, like the artists have to learn how to use the technology, or it's always a big question. And I can't hear you, Catherine.
Oh, sorry. I wouldn't say it's necessary to use technology. There are many photographers that are doing great projects without knowing anything about technique. I wouldn't say it's something that the artists have to do, but they should be like a bit alert, not alert, but they should a bit observe what's going on now in these technological improvements or change, because this might also affect the way they work in a way. In my case, I really try to put technology into the process of my work, from the way I'm taking pictures to the way I'm showing them, because I think it's also relevant. It's a reflection of my own context in a way, of the actuality of the moment we are. But there are other photographers that are still using old process nowadays, and what they want here is maybe to have a final result that is unique. And what we didn't say before is that there is this other aspect with the technologies, with digital, that in a way photography is like something we can replicate endlessly. And this is another question about then the value of an artwork, if it's something we can replicate endlessly, versus some photographers using old process, and then we have like a unique picture in the end. I was also like when I was invited to give that talk, I was also interesting to talk a bit about the durability of the digital images we are creating now. I mean, it's paradoxal. We create trillions of pictures every day, but we have really few experience, or I mean a short experience in time about the possibility to read this picture in the future. I would say in already like 50 years or 100 years.
我简单的跟大家翻译一下，就是 他认为并不是，就是就是依旧现在有很多的艺术家都在还是用比较传统的方式在进行创作。那么在他自己的作品中，科技是融在他的这个语境之下的，所以为什么他的作品会有这么多关于科技相关的和技术相关的，是因为他自己所关注的这个点是这样的。那么还有一个问题就是这个数码摄影，它一直是这个数码摄影的普及，它其实带来的是可复制性的问题。那所以就是说这是一个很矛盾的点，就还有艺术家其实还是在用传统的那种不可复制性的这种摄影技术在进行创作，他觉得这个都是可以的。那Catherine, can you see the questions? I think we are run out of time and you're pretty tired. So can you pick any one of the questions? Can you see
I'm sorry.
Q&A?
Here. Okay.
So you can pick last one.
There's one in Chinese.
But they have
two in
English.
Chinese. Okay. We are. Is it possible for photography to predict the future? This I don't know. I don't know if anyone can or any tool can predict the future, but it's I would say it's a great way to record, yeah, the past and the present. And photography for me is about keeping a trace of something. But my concern is about the fragility of these digital files we have now with photography. I don't know if we will be able to read all this documentation we have from our present time, and if it's going to be readable for the future generations. This is a big deal and big, let's say, concern about what I'm about how I view photography from my point of view.
Okay.
Other questions or?
And I think we have pretty much good questions actually, but
yeah,
like since you are a bit tired, I think thank you for everyone. I mean, we have really a lot of great questions coming. Probably I can write it down and we can have further discussion later on. And again, thank you everyone. And thank you Catherine and Cici and Xingyi for the translation. And the exhibition will continue to exhibit in Shanghai, and then we'll finally arrive in Beijing by the early of November, and it will continue to next the end of the January. So it's pretty long session, and we can having different discussions in the actually space. So if you come to Shanghai or Beijing, you will see Catherine's work by showing in the slides, but also we are presenting the 3D Techno sculptures there. And thank you so much, everyone. And Cici, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty good. Like you coming from the background of trying to connecting art and technology, and from both Switzerland and China. And also like Catherine have already adopted, she has already discovered there's a Chinese companies, I mean, technology companies, and trying to work with them for the future. So I think it's pretty much good idea. Like you can work out in the future to see how art, photography, and technology can combine together and make the future projects. So that's my good perception to the future, like if you can work together in the future. Yeah,
I would love to actually. Because I'm more and more interested in science as as my projects are connected to science, and that I think that photography is somehow now completely connected to technology, to science. I'm really willing in the future to to go on with the collaborations, could be with the Swiss China or other institution. Would love to. Thank you.
Thank you.
这是我要说的嘛 Okay. So thank you all, and yeah, hopefully, yeah, okay. So hopefully we can meet
Yeah,
soon
I
somewhere,
hope.
because
I hope.
yeah, we kind of decided like, and probably you can come over to China during like back at the end of the year, but it seems really difficult.
Again, I think there's no tool to predict, and photography cannot predict
can
this
predict the future.
neither.
Exactly. Okay.
But
So-
yeah, stay all safe, and thank you for having me today with you. It was a pleasure.
Have a good day.
this
So
talk.
I will write your email. Bye bye.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. So I'll end the webinar now.
好的。